If someone had told me that early autumn evening would change everything, I wouldn't have believed them, because I thought I knew my Laura better than anyone in the world. It all started so unexpectedly that even now, remembering that day, I feel a chill running down my spine. I'm Mark, an experienced roofer working for a construction company here in Sacramento. I'm 32, my wife Laura is 29. We've been together for 5 years, have 2 kids, 7-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Eric. Laura works as a fitness trainer at one of the local gyms, and I've always been proud of her dedication to work. That morning, I arrived at the office at 7 as usual to get the company vehicle and find out which job site was scheduled for today. Our foreman Jim looked through the order list and suddenly smiled. "Mark, you're going to have an interesting day. Remember that neighbor you gave our business card to a few weeks ago?" I nodded. Indeed, my neighbor diagonally across the street had mentioned he needed his roof repaired after the recent storms. He ordered us. "We're going almost to your house," Jim laughed. We loaded the tools, took the ladders and rolls of waterproofing, and our 3-man crew headed out. The autumn sun was just rising over Sacramento when we arrived at the neighbor's house. From there I could see my own house, a white 2-story with blue shutters that Laura and I bought 3 years ago. We started work at 8. I climbed onto the roof, and from there was a wonderful view of our neighborhood. Around 9 in the morning, as I was measuring a section that needed replacing, I noticed a dark blue sedan pull up to my house. A man in an expensive suit sat behind the wheel. He pulled out his phone and called someone. Probably a taxi, I thought, and returned to work. But a minute later my hands froze. Laura came out of our house. She was wearing that elegant dress she usually only wore on special occasions. My wife walked up to the car, opened the door, and kissed the driver. Not on the cheek like an acquaintance. A real long kiss. Then she got in the car and they drove off. I squeezed the hammer so hard my knuckles turned white. Jim, working nearby, saw it too. Our eyes met. "Mark," he began. "I saw," I replied, and my voice sounded foreign. The third member of our crew, a guy we called Phoebe's nephew because he really was our secretary Phoebe's nephew, also froze with a drill in his hands. Jim came down from the roof, walked over to the ladder where I stood staring into emptiness. "Listen, if you need a few days to sort this out, you can skip work. We'll cover for you with management." I nodded, although in reality management didn't care how many people were on site as long as the work was done well and on time. There were never any inspections. "No," I suddenly said. "I have a plan." I came down from the roof, got in my car and drove to a large electronics store on the outskirts of town. The consultant, an elderly man with a gray beard, listened carefully to my situation. "I understand," he said sympathetically. "Officially I didn't advise you this, but..." He looked around and continued quietly, "Take these mini cameras with motion sensors and power banks for them. This will give you about a day of video recording. Then just replace the power banks with charged ones." I bought 4 cameras, extra power banks and drove home. It was already about 2 in the afternoon. The kids were supposed to return from school at 3. I quickly placed cameras in strategic locations. One in the living room behind a plant, one in the hallway by the coat rack, one in the kitchen behind the microwave, and the last one in our bedroom, disguising it behind a picture frame on the dresser. At 2:30 I was already sitting in the living room with my laptop when I heard the door open. Laura walked in with her gym bag. "Hi, honey," she smiled as if nothing had happened. "You're early today." The job was close by, we finished quickly, I replied, trying to speak calmly. She kissed me on the cheek, so naturally, so ordinarily, and went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. I watched her and couldn't believe it. How could she play like this? How had I not noticed this before? When Laura went to shower, I took her phone. She always left it charging in the kitchen and never set a complicated password. Just our wedding year. I quickly forwarded all suspicious messages I found to myself. There were messages with Lewis, that was his name. Lewis Martinez, a host on the local news channel. I'd seen him on TV. Popular, charismatic, successful. Reading their messages, I felt the ground disappearing from under my feet. They'd been messaging for 3 months. He wrote to her about how beautiful she was, how he couldn't live without her. She responded. God, she responded the way she used to write to me. The worst message was from 2 days ago. "Laura, when can we finally spend a whole day together? I want to drive you around town. I want you to be near me longer than just a few hours." Her reply, "Soon, darling. Mark is going to a job site out of town for a few days. I'll figure something out with the kids." I deleted all the messages I'd sent from her phone and put it back. My hands were shaking. That evening as we put the kids to bed, I watched Laura. Lily told her about school, about her new friend, and Laura laughed, hugged our daughter, sang to her before bed. Then we read Eric his favorite book about dinosaurs together. Everything was so normal. So right. How could she? The next morning at breakfast I said, Laura, I need to go to a job site out of town. For 2 or 3 days. Complicated roof, we'll need to stay there overnight. I saw something flash in her eyes. Joy. Relief? Oh, she said. When are you leaving? This evening. Okay. Don't worry, I'll manage with the kids. That day at work I asked the boss for permission to take the company pickup for a few days, leaving mine for him instead. He agreed without extra questions. I was a reliable worker, always did quality work. On Friday evening I left for the job site. Actually, I parked the pickup 2 blocks from our house in a quiet spot under some trees. Through an app on my phone I could watch the live stream from all the cameras in real time. Saturday started quietly. Laura made breakfast for the kids, they watched cartoons. Then, around 11 I saw through the camera how she called. Mom, hi. Listen, Marc went to a job site out of town. I was thinking maybe the kids could come to you for a day or 2. I'd like to do a thorough cleaning, renovate their rooms. Yes, I'll bring them myself. Thank you. She lied so easily, so convincingly. At 2 in the afternoon I watched Laura put the kids in the car and drive off. They were going to her parents who lived on the other side of Sacramento. It took about 40 minutes one way. I knew she'd be back in about an hour and a half. And I was right. At 4 o'clock she returned home. Left the car in the driveway, went into the house and started changing. I watched through the bedroom camera as she chose clothes, carefully applied makeup, let her hair down. At 4:30 that same dark blue sedan pulled up to our house. Laura came out, locked the door and got in the car. They drove off. I started the pickup and carefully followed them, keeping a safe distance. They drove across the entire city. Stopped at an expensive restaurant downtown, the same one where Laura and I celebrated our anniversary last year. I parked nearby and waited. They sat there for 2 hours. Then they went to a movie theater. After the movie, to the park by the Sacramento River where they walked holding hands. I photographed everything on my phone. Every moment. Every touch. Every kiss. Around 9 in the evening they finally drove back. I followed them and my heart sank when I realized they were heading to our house. In the darkness I parked the pickup around the corner and turned on the camera live stream on my phone again. They entered the house. Laura led him to the living room, offered wine. He sat on our couch, the same one we'd chosen together 3 years ago. Drank from our glasses. Smiled at her. They started kissing. His hands slid down her back, she responded to the kisses. Then she took his hand and led him to the bedroom. I got out of the pickup. The autumn air was cold, but I barely felt it. I walked up to our house, my own house, and quietly opened the door with the spare key. Soft music was playing in the house. I heard their voices from the bedroom. I went up the stairs. The bedroom door was half open. I pushed it. Laura screamed. Lewis jumped out of bed. They were both half undressed, and in their eyes was shock, fear, incomprehension. Marc? Laura exclaimed. You were supposed to be out of town? I finished for her. My voice was calm, cold. Yes, I was supposed to be. But you know what, Laura? Plans changed. Lewis quickly started getting dressed, his hands shaking. Listen, man, Shut up, I said quietly, and something in my voice made him fall silent. You're Lewis Martinez, right? The TV host from Channel 6? The one who talks about the importance of family values on his show. He went pale. I have photos, I continued, of both of you. At the restaurant, at the movie theater, in the park. I have recordings of your conversations, your messages. I have everything. Laura started crying, trying with trembling hands to pull on her robe. Marc, please let me explain. Explain what? I was still speaking quietly. That you've been lying to me for 3 months? That you took our kids to their grandmother's so you could fuck him in our bed? I didn't want this to happen, she cried. I still love you, Marc. It was a mistake. But you love me? I almost laughed. Laura, loving wives don't do this. Lewis finished getting dressed and headed for the door. Stop, I ordered. You're not going anywhere until we talk. He stopped, turned around. Fear was on his face. Look, I didn't know that she. You're lying, I interrupted. You knew perfectly well. She told you about me, about our kids. I read your messages. The silence was heavy. Laura sat on the edge of the bed crying quietly. Here's what's going to happen, I said, taking out my phone. Lewis, you have a choice. Either you tell your management about this situation yourself, or I send them all the photos and recordings. I can imagine how your audience will react when they find out their favorite host, who preaches about family values, destroys other people's families. You can't. He began. I can. And I will. But there's one more thing. I looked at Laura. You're going to tell the truth to my parents and yours. Personally. Not me but you. You'll tell them everything you've been doing these 3 months. Marc, please? This is not up for discussion, I said. Either you tell them yourself or I show them all the evidence. And yes, we're getting divorced. Tomorrow I'm filing the papers. Lewis abruptly left the room. I heard him run down the stairs, heard the door slam. Outside the window a car engine started and he drove off. We were left alone. Why? I asked. Laura, just tell me why. She was silent for a long time, wiping her eyes. He paid attention to me. Gave me compliments. He came to the gym where I work, started taking personal training sessions with me 2 months ago. He was so different. He was interested in me, my thoughts, my dreams. And I wasn't? My throat tightened. You've always been good, Marc. You're a wonderful father, a good husband. But you worked. Always worked. We stopped really talking. Stopped seeing each other. And that justifies what you did? No, she whispered. Nothing justifies it. I know. I regret it so much, Marc. I looked at her, at the woman I'd loved for 5 years, with whom I'd shared life, with whom I'd raised 2 children. And suddenly I felt only emptiness. I'm staying at a hotel tonight, I said. Tomorrow I'll pick up some of my things. You'll talk to the parents, mine and yours, by the end of the week. Understood. She nodded without raising her eyes. I left the house that night and never returned as its master. The next 2 weeks were a blur of meetings with lawyers, signing documents, difficult conversations with parents. Laura's parents were in shock. Mine supported me unconditionally. The hardest part was with the kids. How do you explain to 7-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Eric why Daddy doesn't live with them anymore? But the most interesting part was yet to come. A week after that night, Jim called me. Marc, have you been watching the news? No, why? Turn on Channel 6. I turned it on. Lewis Martinez stood in front of cameras, looking confused and frightened. I apologized to everyone who trusted me. I made a serious mistake in my personal life that contradicts the values I proclaimed. I've resigned from my hosting position and I turned off the TV. So he did confess to management. Good. The divorce lasted 3 months. Laura didn't resist, agreed to all terms. We decided to sell the house and split the money. Custody of the kids was shared. They'd live with her but spend every weekend and half the holidays with me. One day when we met at the lawyers to sign the final papers, Laura quietly asked. He never called me after that night. Lewis, he just disappeared. I looked at her. And you expected it to be different? Laura, you were only needed for entertainment. For adrenaline. He's a TV host, a public figure. As soon as there was a risk of scandal, he ran. Such people are only interested in things without consequences. She lowered her eyes. I know. I was foolish. Yes, I agreed. You were. When the divorce was finally finalized, it was already early winter. I found a small apartment near the kids' school to be closer to them. Laura continued working at the same gym, although according to mutual acquaintances, many clients left her after rumors about our divorce spread. Once, when I was picking up the kids for the weekend, Lily asked, Dad, why don't we live together anymore? I crouched down to be at her eye level. Sometimes adults realize they're better off living separately, princess. But that doesn't change how much we love you and Eric. We'll always be your parents, always be there. But Mom cries at night, she said quietly. I hear her. That touched something inside, but I didn't let it show. Mom's having a hard time right now. But she's strong, she'll get through it. Time passed. I immersed myself completely in work, in raising the kids. Jim and the guys from the crew supported me as they could. We completed several large projects together and the boss even gave me a raise. Laura tried to talk to me several times, not about the kids but about us. I refused. There was no point in going back to it. Once when I came to pick up the kids, her car wasn't there. Where's Mom? I asked Lily. She left somewhere this morning and said she'd be back late, my daughter replied. Grandma came to stay with us. Indeed, Laura's mother was in the house. She looked at me with some mixture of guilt and sympathy. Marc, she said. I'm so sorry about everything that happened. Laura, she made a terrible mistake. She understands that now. It doesn't matter, I interrupted gently. What happened happened. We all need to move forward. Later I learned from Jim, whose wife was friends with Laura's former colleague, that Laura tried to contact Lewis after the divorce. Wrote him several messages, called. He blocked her number. For him she was just an adventure that didn't work out, and he had no intention of continuing it after the scandal. Almost a year passed. The kids got used to the new routine, though they missed the times when we were together. I started dating a nice woman named Phoebe, a namesake of our secretary with no family connection. She was an English teacher, smart and kind. We weren't rushing, just getting to know each other. Laura never found anyone new. According to her mother, her daughter withdrew into herself, worked even more, tried to be the best mom for the kids. But loneliness weighed on her. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. One winter evening when I brought the kids back after the weekend, Laura stopped me at the door. "Marc, can we talk?" "At least 5 minutes." I sighed but nodded. The kids had already run upstairs to their rooms. "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness," she began quietly. "What I did, it was the worst mistake of my life. I lost everything. Lost you, our home, our family. Every day I think about how foolish I was." "Laura, let me finish, please." Her eyes were full of tears. "Lewis disappeared from my life the moment you caught us. He didn't respond to a single one of my messages. He used me, and I was so blind I didn't see it. I don't know what I thought. That he really cared about me? That he was different? But in reality he was just looking for entertainment." "I know," I said. "I still love you, Marc. I never stopped loving you. What happened with Lewis, it wasn't about love. It was about my stupidity, my weakness. I'm not asking you to come back. I know that's impossible. I just want you to know, I regret it. Every day. Every hour." I looked at her, at the woman who was once the center of my world. And I felt sympathy. But not love. Not anymore. "I believe you," I finally said. "I believe you regret it. But Laura, some things can't be undone. You destroyed trust. And without trust there's no future." She nodded, wiping tears. "I know. I just wanted you to hear it from me." I turned to go to the car. "Marc," she called. I turned around. "Thank you for being a good father to our kids. For not turning them against me. That's more than I deserve." "It's not for you," I replied. "It's for Lily and Eric. They love us both. And I'll never destroy that." I got in the car and drove off. In the rearview mirror I saw her standing in the doorway, a small and lonely figure in the lamplight. Life went on. I built roofs, raised the kids, built a new relationship with Phoebe. Sometimes, when I lay at night in my new apartment, I thought about how quickly what took years to build can be destroyed. One mistake, one decision, and everything flies into the abyss. Laura remained alone, having lost both husband and lover. Lewis lost his career and reputation. And I lost the illusion of a happy family, but found something more important: truth. And the possibility to start again honestly, without lies. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Revenge is allowing a person to live with the consequences of their own choices. Laura got exactly what she wanted: freedom, the opportunity to be with Lewis. But it turned out Lewis never needed her. He disappeared as soon as everything became real, as soon as there were consequences. A year and a half had already passed since that evening when I caught them together. Spring in Sacramento was especially warm, and I was working on a big project: restoring the roof of an old church downtown. Jim and I were standing on scaffolding when he suddenly nudged me with his elbow. "Look," he nodded down. Below on the sidewalk a group of people with cameras and microphones passed by. Among them I recognized Lewis Martinez. He looked different, had lost weight, grown a beard, dressed simply without his former elegance. He now worked as a reporter for a small cable channel, after being fired from Channel 6. "How far he's fallen," Jim commented. "Everyone gets what they deserve," I replied, returning to work. That same evening when I picked up the kids, Eric excitedly told me, "Dad, you know what? Mom signed me up for soccer. And Lily's taking dance classes now too." "That's wonderful, buddy," I smiled, ruffling his hair. "And Mom said she has a new friend," Lily added. "His name is Jim. He's a PE teacher at our school." I felt a pang of something. Jealousy? No, more like surprise. So Laura was finally moving on. "That's good," I told the kids. "I'm glad Mom's happy." And it was true. I really was glad. Not because I still cared about her romantically, but because she's the mother of my children and her happiness affects them. A month later Laura asked to meet, again not about the kids but to talk. This time I agreed. We sat in a small coffee shop on the outskirts of town. Laura looked better than she had in the last year. There was some new lightness in her eyes. I wanted to thank you, she began, for how you've behaved all this time. For not turning our divorce into a war. Why would I? I replied. It wouldn't have helped anyone, only hurt the kids. Most men in your position would have made my life hell. Maybe. But I'm not most men. She smiled, sadly but sincerely. The kid said you have someone too. Phoebe? Yes. She's a good woman. We're not rushing, but yes, there's something. I'm happy for you, Marc. Really happy. Laura took a sip of coffee. And things with Jim are serious. He's simple, honest. He doesn't promise me stars from the sky. He's just there. And that's what I need. Then I'm happy for you too. We were silent. Between us there was no longer that tension, that pain that existed 6 months ago. You know what struck me most through all this? Laura suddenly asked. What? That you never yelled at me. Even that night when you caught us. Even during the divorce. You just withdrew. Became cold. And that was worse than any yelling. I yelled, I said quietly. Just not out loud. Inside I was yelling for months. I know. I'm sorry. I know that word doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. I forgave you, Laura. Not right away, but I did. Not for your sake, for mine. Because carrying that anger further would mean allowing you to continue controlling my life. And I didn't want that. She wiped away a tear that rolled down her cheek. You've become wiser. Life has that property, teaching us through pain. As we left the coffee shop, Laura suddenly hugged me. Not romantically, but in a friendly way. Thank you, Marc. For everything. For 5 good years, for our wonderful children, for not destroying me when you could have. I returned the embrace. Be happy, Laura. Truly happy this time. You too. That was our last conversation on personal topics. After that we only communicated about the kids, about their needs, about the schedule. We became what we should have been, ex-spouses who raised children together but no longer share a life. A year later I married Phoebe. The wedding was small, intimate. The kids were delighted. They liked Phoebe and she treated them well, not trying to replace their mom. Laura also married Jim. Their wedding was even more modest than ours. The kids said Jim was kind, played soccer with them, taught Eric to throw a ball. Life settled into a new rhythm. I had my family. Phoebe became not just a wife but a true partner, friend. Laura had hers. The kids had both parents who loved them. One day, 3 years after the divorce, I accidentally met Lewis at a gas station. He stood by an old sedan, not that luxurious dark blue one he drove to my house that time. Our eyes met. He recognized me and fear appeared on his face. Marc, he began. I raised my hand, stopping him. No need. Everything's long in the past. I wanted to say, I was an idiot. I destroyed your family, my career. All for nothing, I finished. Yes, you were an idiot. But you know what? Maybe it was for the best. You helped me see the truth earlier than I would have wasted more years on a relationship that wasn't real. He looked at me in surprise. You're not angry? I was. Very. But now I'm just indifferent. You mean nothing to me, Lewis. You're just a person from my past who helped me become who I am now. I lost everything, he said quietly. My job, reputation, dreams. You lost what you earned with your actions, I replied. Each of us is responsible for our choices. You made yours. I got in my pickup, the same one the company finally let me buy out after so many years of service, and drove off. In the rearview mirror I saw Lewis standing by his old car, small and alone. That evening when I returned home, to a real home where Phoebe was waiting for me with dinner, where everything was honest and real, I thought about that night a year and a half ago. About the pain, anger, despair. And then I thought about now. About how happy I actually became. About how if not for that betrayal, I might still be living in a false relationship, not knowing what real trust and partnership are. The irony is that Laura, trying to find something better, lost the good she had. Lewis, trying to have everything, lost everything. And I, having lost everything, found what I didn't even know I was looking for. Last month Eric asked me, Dad, do you miss the time when we all lived together? I thought before answering. You know, son, I miss some moments. How we watched cartoons together, how we baked cookies with Mom at Christmas. But I don't miss that relationship because it wasn't real. Now I have a real relationship with Phoebe. And Mom has one with Jim. And that's much better. But you're not angry at Mom? No, buddy. I'm not angry. People make mistakes. Your mom made a big mistake and she paid for it. But she's still your mom and she loves you and Lily more than anything in the world. That's what matters most. He hugged me and I felt I'd done the right thing. Not filling the kids with hatred, not making their lives a battlefield between parents. Now as I write these lines, 4 years have passed since that autumn night. Lily is 12, Eric is 10. They're healthy, happy children with 2 homes where they're loved. Laura and Jim live a quiet life. She still works as a fitness trainer, but now at a different club. Jim turned out to be a good person, and I even became friends with him, as much as possible under such circumstances. Phoebe and I are planning to have our own child. The company promoted me to crew supervisor, and now I have a stable good income. We bought a small house on the outskirts of Sacramento with a nice garden. And Lewis? The last I heard, he moved to Los Angeles trying to start his career again. Whether he succeeded, I don't know and don't care. My story of betrayal, divorce and new life taught me the main thing. Real revenge isn't destroying the person who betrayed you. Real revenge is building a better life without them. It's proving to yourself and everyone around that you can be happy despite the pain. Laura lost a good husband and destroyed a stable family for an adventure that turned out to be empty. Lewis lost his career and reputation for entertainment that cost him everything. And I lost illusions but found truth. And of all of us, I won the most. Sometimes, driving past that house where Laura and I lived, I look at it without any emotion. It's just a house. Other people live there now, building their stories. And I'm living mine, honest, open, real. And you know what? I'm truly happy. For the first time in many years, truly happy. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.